In section 5.5, we'll look at solving equations and inequalities involving roots. But let's start by talking about the reverse, which we've already done. What if we have an equation involving x squared? So if we look at this first example, we have the equation x squared equals 4. Well, we learned in a previous chapter that you can take the square root of both sides of the equation, but there's a consequence. You have to pick up a plus or minus symbol. What that did was the square root and the squared canceled each other out, just leaving you with the x term. But it gave us two solutions for our answer. It gave us a positive and a negative square root of 4, which is 2. So we got two answers, 2 and negative 2. So now the question becomes, how do we think we're going to solve the reverse? Instead of x squared equals 4, now we've got square root of x equals 2. Well, if square rooting got rid of squaring, well then squaring should get rid of square rooting. So in order to solve this equation, what we're going to actually do is square both sides of the equation. Be careful that we square both sides. To make sure that we're squaring the entire side, we're going to actually put parentheses around both sides before we actually square it. So what will this give us? This will give us that, again, just like before, the square root and squared will cancel, leaving us with just the x underneath. But on the other side, we just get the solution 2 squared, which is 4. There's nothing fancy about this, but our answer is 4. Now, there is a warning. There's actually nothing special we have to do to actually get the answer, like the plus or minus symbol we had to before, but you do have to be aware that you could end up with what are called false solutions. Whenever you have an even root, you always have to worry about this. When you square both sides or raise both sides to the 4th power or anything like this, that you could end up with false solutions. So in order to make sure that your answer actually works, what do you have to do? You actually have to turn around and take your answers and check them by plugging them back in to make sure that they work. Again, you really only need to do this with anything where you've got an even root, square roots, 4th roots, 6th roots. You can check all of your answers, but you really only need to do it if you've got an even root. Let's look at this first problem. In order to actually solve an equation like this where you have a square root, what we have to make sure is we can't get rid of the square root until the square root is by itself. So in this first example, we notice that the square root is not by itself. So how do we get this square root by itself? Well, we're going to get rid of that minus 8 that's kind of dangling off to the side there. How will we get rid of a minus 8? Well, we'll go ahead and add 8 to both sides. Well, that gives us that our square root of 4 minus 3x equals x plus 8. Now that the square root's by itself, now I can square both sides of the equation to get rid of the square root. So, again, don't forget your parentheses when you do this. You square one side, but you also have to square the entire other side of the equation. Well, on the left-hand side, it's nice because just the square root and squared cancel out, leaving you with just what's underneath, the 4 minus 3x. The problem is the other side. The problem is you've squared an entire binomial. What does that mean? It means that there are 2 of those. So that actually means you have an x plus 8 times another x plus 8, which means you have to do what? You have to FOIL. So, in order to figure out what that left-hand side is going to even equal, we need to FOIL an x plus 8 times another x plus 8. So let's see what happens. Well, foiling here should give us, multiplying out the FOIL here, will give us what? X squared plus 8x plus another 8x will actually give us 16x. And then 8 and 8 will also give us 64. So we end up with a quadratic equation again. So remember, to solve a quadratic equation, it needs to equal 0. The quickest way to make this thing equal 0 is actually if we move everything that's on the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So well, we've got a positive 4, so to move that, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. And to move the 3x, we'll actually do the reverse. We've got a minus 3x, so we'll add 3x. And let's see what that gives us. Now, that moves everything from the left side over here to the right side. So that gets rid of everything on the left and leaves us with a 0. And it leaves us with the right-hand side, which is now x squared plus 19x plus 60. Now, the hope is once you have a quadratic that hopefully it factors, meaning what two factors of 60 add up to the middle number 19? Well, this does factor. It factors out as an x plus 15 and an x plus 4, which once those are both set equal to 0, let's see. Next, we'd set each one of these equal to 0, so you'd get x plus 15 equals 0. And x plus 4 equals 0. You get x equals negative 15 and x equals negative 4. Now be careful. You can't just say these are your two answers. You actually have to check them. Remember, whenever we had an even root, we do have to check our answers by plugging them in. Well, let's see. So plugging in, let's see, the negative 15 first. So you plug in the negative 15, which gets multiplied by a negative 3, which will give us 45. Added to the 4 that's out in front gives you 49. Square root of 49 is 7. Minus 8 gives you negative 1. And we said x was negative 15. So negative 1 does not equal negative 15, so that first answer does not work. Let's check the second answer, our negative 4. Let's plug that in. So again, plugging in negative 4 for x gives us negative 4 times negative 3 is 12. Added to 4 is 16. So square root of 16 here would give you 4. Minus 8 would give you, on that entire side, negative 4, which we just plugged in. X was negative 4, so we do get negative 4 equals negative 4. So yes, x equals negative 4 is the only answer that actually works. So if we were to list out our answers, we would just give the answer negative 4 because our negative 15 did not work. So that is our only answer, negative 4.